Welcome back to the story Broken Trust, a Family, the Police, and a System in Question. Part 5 A System Under Scrutiny. The saga of a husband, his estranged wife, and their two children has raised difficult questions about the fairness and consistency of Australia's justice system. What began as a story of marital collapse has become an emblem of how law enforcement, welfare systems, and family courts can operate unevenly, with consequences not just for adults, but for children caught in the middle. The unequal weight of domestic violence orders. Central to the husband's allegations is the domestic violence order, DVO, imposed against him. Designed to prevent escalation and protect vulnerable parties, DVOs are an important tool in the justice system, but critics argue they can be misused. Men's advocacy groups point to cases where DVOs are weaponized, leveraged as a tactical tool in separations and custody disputes. The husband alleges this has been his reality, with his wife contacting him despite the no-contact order, then threatening to use his responses as grounds for further arrests. This is a system that punishes one side and shields the other, he said. Legal experts agree that enforcement can appear lopsided. Police often act quickly on alleged breaches, but are slower to act when the same orders are broken in reverse. This discrepancy, some argue, reflects a wider imbalance in how domestic disputes are policed. The question of evidence. The husband's second arrest highlights another controversial issue: the threshold of evidence, stating he had already parked his car in the garage, turned off the engine, and left the keys out before pouring himself a drink from his bar fridge. Police, however, placed a hand on the car's bonnet, declared it warm, and treated that as evidence he had been driving while intoxicated. No witness saw him drive. No breath test was conducted while he was behind the wheel, yet his license was suspended on the spot. Months later, after being stopped again, he was handed a further 2-year suspension and a fine in court. "How is that a fair or just system?" he asked. "You can lose your license and your freedom based on an assumption, not evidence." Civil libertarians have long raised alarms about the broad discretion police hold in such cases. Critics say assumptions should never substitute for proof, particularly when the consequences include imprisonment, financial loss, and family separation. Welfare oversight and illegal businesses. Another strand of the husband's allegations involves the wife's cleaning business, which he claims she runs without a registered business number, without public liability insurance, and while collecting a single-parent pension from the government. He states she earns cash income that is not reported to Centrelink, yet no enforcement action has been taken despite reports being lodged. For the husband, this raises the question of double standards. "When I make a mistake, the police are at my door. But when she openly breaks the law, nothing happens. Why? Who's protecting her?" The issue speaks to wider criticisms of welfare oversight in Australia. Analysts note that compliance systems often target small discrepancies by ordinary recipients, but struggle to track undeclared cash businesses, especially in service industries. Children as collateral damage. Perhaps the deepest concern is the fate of the children. For 6 months, the husband has been unable to see them, despite wanting to be actively involved in their lives. He describes missing Christmas, his son's primary school graduation, and his first day of high school, milestones that cannot be relived. In one striking incident, he says his wife promised to leave the children with him while she flew to Melbourne, only to use his own flight voucher to take them with her instead, disappearing for 2 weeks with no consequences. "This isn't just about me. It's about what kind of childhood my kids are being forced into," he said. Family law experts warn that children often bear the heaviest costs in high-conflict separations, especially when one parent is systematically excluded. Prolonged separation from a parent, they note, can have long-term emotional consequences, even if intended as a short-term legal measure. A call for reform. The husband's ordeal, whether fully proven or not, reflects a growing debate about fairness, accountability, and oversight in Australia's justice system. Domestic violence laws. Are DVOs being applied fairly, or do they enable manipulation in custody disputes? Police discretion. Should assumptions, such as a warm bonnet, be enough to justify life-altering charges? Welfare enforcement. Why are some cases pursued aggressively while others appear ignored? Children's rights. How can systems better prioritize a child's need for both parents in cases of separation? For the husband, these are not abstract questions, but lived realities. I've lost my business, my freedom, and my time with my kids, he said. And all the while, the people who are meant to keep things fair have turned a blind eye. The larger picture. Cases like this shine a light on the fragile trust between citizens and institutions. When laws feel unevenly enforced, when welfare rules appear selectively applied, and when parents feel erased from their children's lives, the result is disillusionment. The husband's allegations of betrayal, corruption, and systemic bias are, at their heart, also a plea for recognition, for balance, and for reform. Whether authorities will act remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: until such questions are answered, faith in the system will continue to erode. Editor's note: these are allegations and have not been independently verified. Thank you for watching.